Welcome to another episode of Curious Success. My name is Rashim. I have my colleague and partner,
Simba Hughes.
Key contributors. Of course, once again, we're excited to be back and doing another episode. Today's episode is titled The Battle of Complacency, or The Battle Against Complacency, excuse me. We have two wonderful guests that are going to briefly introduce themselves, and then Simba and I will do our brief introductions, and then we'll get started with today's episode. Ladies.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tashanta Snyder, and I am the CEO and founder of Ayana Productions News, LLC.
Damn.
Currently, we're working on our first web series called Media Alert. You guys should definitely check that out.
Definitely.
Follow us on Instagram at Media Alert Series. And professionally, I am a freelance writer.
That's awesome.
Yo, thank you. Our next guest.
So my name is Melanie Jean. I'm at JP Morgan Chase, and I'm an HR business partner there. Born and raised in Brooklyn. On Labor Day, you can find me with my Haitian flag. I rep the red and blue so hard. Oh yes. And passion, just trying to figure out this thing called life, and just enjoy being with my family, travel, have fun, good times. That's all.
Go. Thank you, ladies, for being our guest today. Someone you want to go real quick? Quick intro.
So obviously key contributor Simba Hughes. So I also work at JP Morgan. Ain't that about something?
Oh, what's your SID? What's your SID?
What's your name now?
Where's your office locations?
Which office?
I moved to Brooklyn. I live in Brooklyn, so I said it's close. It's like 20 to 25 minutes. So
We'll chat later. Interesting.
how you doing? I'm just stop. So I also work at JP Morgan Chase. So I'm a project manager within the digital wealth management program. I'm from Trini, so we represent the black, white, red.
Come on. Come on.
I had to plug that in.
That's the first time you said Trini and not Trinidad and Tobago.
Have a good day, Rasheem. I know what he's doing, guys.
You know he says that.
No. But obviously you guys know me. Don't have any side endeavors. That was amazing, by the way. You see, that's impressive. Don't have any side ventures. Obviously, Curious Success, and also with Melanie, just trying to figure this thing that we call life and enjoy it while we're here.
Blue.
You better blow me away.
Nah.
What you gotta say?
Nah, nothing crazy. So yeah, 10 years working in the nonprofit industry. I just fell in love with doing this work, having these conversations, bringing up various levels of topics, doing like life skills workshops, and Curious Success was kind of like created from that outlet and just that platform for being able to build and just sharing discussions and positive energy with others. So here we have today, and this is what we're doing.
All right, let's go.
So let me just pull up these questions. And the first question is, we'll just start with just defining, what does it mean to become complacent? We'll go around.
Well, you're asking us that.
So in a nutshell, I just think becoming complacent, you're getting comfortable. You don't even realize it sometimes, but I think it's just you hit a point of success maybe, and you just get comfortable.
Okay.
All right. Complacency, excuse me. I would say that is just being, you have no desire to move forward in your life. I mean, success-wise, attaining for a higher ground.
Okay.
So I view it like it encompasses, like, it doesn't have to be professional life at all. It can be like personal. It can be complacent in a relationship.
Yeah.
But I view it like you're satisfied or you're comfortable in the position that you're at, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're successful. You could be so-called a bum, and you could just in that rut, right? I'm gonna bring this up because I don't know why I remember this, but I remember Insecure. All my HBO fans. I can't remember his name.
Boyfriend?
Issa's boy. What's his name called?
Forgot his name.
I forgot.
Damn, I don't know.
What was it? Clarence? Lawrence?
Lawrence, Team Lawrence, Best Buy. Oh, no.
Lawrence?
It was Lawrence.
Lawrence, it was Lawrence. So, when educated and all that, and he was just stuck into this complacent for 4 years and not doing anything, right? He wasn't successful, right? But in my terms, you can view that like just being complacent or being like stuck in a rut for that 4 years, just I guess, doing nothing, right? So I've viewed both on the professional side and obviously the personal side as well.
Yeah, I've looked at it from because I feel like we are universal learners, but I also feel that at times we could limit ourselves with how we perceive the potential for growth and development. So when I think of complacency, or when one becomes complacent, is that it could be like one central thing or one singular thing that actually affects everything else, as if there isn't everything else. So it's like they limit themselves because there's that one thing that might have happened in their life. It could have been like, something tragic or anything of that nature, some struggle or challenge that they might have experienced, and then it just threw over everything. It's like now I don't even pay attention to the fact that I had so much potential or other things that I could grow out of that were there. So I'm limiting myself to just this one thing, and I'm just drowning it for so many, whatever it be. But it's definitely a level of being comfortable with that as well. So that's kind of like how I'm putting my spin on it. So just saying, I try. Why are people content when they are dissatisfied in life?
I look at
I could start.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead, brother.
So I think it's kind of like piggybacks to what I was saying. It's like you have some individuals that I think they're not used to having. So they're not used to having opportunities given them. For some people, it's like if you grew up maybe in a dysfunctional household, it's hard to fathom more than dysfunction. It's hard to fathom there being more that will probably be presented to you that you could take advantage of in life. So it's like, it could be, okay, we go with this. I have a family member that I know of that it was interesting because her child's father was like expressing to me how he was so happy just to get his tax return so he could claim his children. And the way, and it was like, you're not doing anything else. Like, I try to help you get into like a GED program. I try to help you get to another level, to try to maximize your potential. And you just didn't want to take advantage of that. You felt like you wanted to stay in the streets. You wanted to stay involved in that and not really do too much, but also not understanding that if you're trying to take care of a family, that you need to be bringing stability, not instability, with the potential opportunity that you could be locked up within 2 or 3 days from now because you want to stay in the streets. So it's like, I feel like it was some level of, of comfortability of just being at that level with those struggles, and was like, okay, I'm fine with this,
But did he wanted to get his tax return to provide for his family, right?
Not only to provide for family though, but the thing was, it was the way he used it was like, you're so excited for this because it's an easier way for you to make money instead of actually going out there to work for it. In a sense, because that's the vibe I got from it. It was like, you know what, that's fine. I know this tax return's coming. I'm claiming all these babies, and I'm going to be content with that.
I mean, everyone's hustle is different. So for him, that tax return meant, okay, I can do X, Y, Z. So I don't think necessarily in that case it was necessarily like bad or anything. Like, he's getting his tax return, trying to get that money to provide. And his hustle is different from our hustle. My hustle is different from like everyone's here. So I think complacency at times, like, we look at it as a bad thing, but at times some people, it might be okay for them to be comfortable. Like, for me, it's like I'm always on the grind, right? So at times I do want to just take it easy, figure it out, and I think that's okay sometimes to be comfortable for a little bit. You don't have to be I just picture being like a hamster and you're continuously going. Like, at times you do need to just take it easy. So complacency, yes, it's being comfortable, but sometimes it's okay to be comfortable, and sometimes I think that there's like a good and bad to this when we talk about complacency. It's not always bad.
But what if that comfortability turns into years?
Then that's different.
Because I only gave you an example of one tax return, but every year it's the same.
Oh, it's the same. Over a period.
This is a pattern. So,
But could everyone be this rock star that shooting, like, imagine, like, we're 4 people in a room, we're all trying to push for the same thing. There needs to be some people that are just taking it, like, this world, everyone's just so different, right?
Mhm.
So imagine everyone trying to be an entrepreneur. I had a conversation with someone and she's like, yeah, I'm gonna be CEO, and I'm like, great, that's good for you, I'm still trying to figure me out. But imagine everyone trying to be an entrepreneur, we wouldn't have anyone working. So I think some people being complacent, sometimes I think it's okay.
No, so I was just gonna go back. Like, what was the question?
I could have went back and forth with
Sorry.
Melanie, but I was like
Yeah,
trying to
nah,
lie. Y'all,
nah,
do
go
your
ahead.
numbers.
Go ahead.
Melanie, whew, now I'm
You go ahead. No, I was just saying, like, the question was, how do people, like, stay, they're content, but they're, like, dissatisfied?
The question is, why are people content when they are dissatisfied in life?
You know what? It goes to some of the things you were saying. So that is being complacent. I think it's, if you viewed on so I viewed on both. If you're on a professional side, it's like maybe you're stuck in a rut. Maybe you're not surrounding yourself with the people that should put you in a because sometimes hanging around the right crowd, it gives you that motivation as well, right? External forces as well. I think it's people just go along, like, in relationships. I think I'll tell you this, like, I was talking about this with a friend earlier this week. Like, people get in relationships a lot of times, and it's like, you ain't perfect match, like, right? Or you get a kid, and it's like, well, I guess we gotta see how this thing goes. Like, at that point, it doesn't make sense to stop. So you continue yourself, and you go into a relationship that right? You're not content. You're probably not happy. She's not happy, but you just go with the flow, right? Because there's nothing else other to do. So I think I think sometimes it's definitely the individual, right? Maybe that kind of self-motivation. And my thing with you, Melanie, when you said sometimes
What's your thing with me? Go ahead, bring it on.
I was gonna say, I think when you said it's okay for somebody to be complacent, I would just
To a certain degree.
what I would say is, like, I think so. I agree with you. But everyone can be. When you said that, I don't know why I thought about the Dame Dash interview, Breakfast Club, when he was like, everybody should be a boss, and it was like, well, everybody can't be a boss, right? Some people you have to be a boss. You need workers, right? So, but what I would say is that I think I would just say, if your goal is to do X, Y, Z, and you accomplish that, right, and you feel that you've fulfilled what you need to fulfill, and maybe the next big project is life is your kids or whatever, then that's fine. And if the other person's goal is to be the CEO or whatever, then obviously you got to hustle. It's going to take a journey to get there. But my thing is, it should matter on that person's goals, right? Because if my goal is just to be X, Y, Z, and your goal is above here, if I made it, then I'm good, right? I won't consider myself complacent. I'll just say I fulfilled my purpose or what I wanted to do in life, right? So that's how I would view that. But I think just to circle it all back, I think it's professional-wise, it's maybe, same type of stuff you're doing, bad support from managers, you're around a certain team. To your point, taking a chance to recharge, to come back with a new sense of urgency and purpose is helpful. And I think that on the flip side, that's also with the personal, right? You need that to ensure that you're, if you're dissatisfied in life, right, to actually make a change to correct it. Therefore, you can be content.
Tashanta, you got something you want to add?
I don't think that people are content with being dissatisfied. I have a family member, or I know someone that's already out there.
We know.
I think she's afraid of taking a chance to be successful. And it's not that she doesn't want to do it, it's just that she's afraid. She may have to take a pay cut. She may have to take a chance. She may have to quit her job. So it could be fear. So she's a little bit greedy. So you don't want to let the money go. There's just other personality or characteristics that she has that's stopping her, but she's definitely not happy.
Do you think there's some level of coping? So she's developed these coping mechanisms that's part of the dissatisfaction, but to continue with the dissatisfaction.
Well, I don't think she's happy. I think that it shows if you're not willing to do the steps it takes to get to where you want to be, that just shows your desire for what it is that you want. Maybe you really don't want it, you know, and that's something that she would have to, you know, search inside herself and find.
So just real quick, because Melanie had me hot over here now.
Go ahead, man. You can get it out. Let it out. She wanted to come at me too.
No, seriously. No, like I use that example because I really felt that when I was speaking about like a person just settling for less, and I feel like when someone reached out, like I felt like if I developed some level of rapport, some level of respect for that person, and I felt like he sees that I had to grind and do whatever I did as an example, because you would kind of like witness to that, like to see what I've done and the work I've done, and I reached out to try to help you, and then it was like, I'm really not going to take advantage of that opportunity, but you're also with a family member of mine, and I see that you're struggling, and you have children that you're trying to raise, so it's like I'm trying to really help you help yourself, and you're not taking advantage of that, you know. And it's like, is that worthy? Like, should that be labeled as you getting comfortable?
But to your point, you mentioned that your family member, friend, they were just afraid, right? So I think in this case, this person's probably just afraid. That's why some people can become complacent. They could be afraid to take the next step. So that could be it. And I think with coping, you can't really cope with it internally. It's like sometimes like we know we want to do more, but some people need that extra push. So it may be involved, like you might need to have an additional conversation with him, like really pull him to the side, take him out for coffee, like really possibly take him to the city so he can see more. Because right now, wherever he's at, right, he's just surrounded and seeing certain things. And to your point, you mentioned that we should, you know, be around certain people. So it's just a matter of like possibly bringing that person out of that environment. Sometimes some people, like, we can really push ourselves to think beyond, but other people, they just need that additional
some
care,
people need that
love.
push. Not everyone
yeah.
can do it on their own. Not
Yeah.
everyone, you know, like you'd have siblings and some are more successful than others, right? Same household, right? But just maybe one has a stronger drive than the other.
It's just the drive.
Right?
The
And
drive.
but some people need they're capable. They just need a little bit push, right? And to the product of the environment type thing. I've definitely seen instances where if you're stuck in a certain environment, you can only think you're like in a box, and once you open that, you realize, oh my God, like there's so much
more,
stuff,
yeah.
right? And you're surrounded by people who can mentor you or teach you and say, hey, this is the way to go. You're going to put yourself in a better position to succeed, and you know, to I guess to the whole point of this conversation, to not be complacent.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because you just wonder, like, where's the sense of urgency at? I think anyone knows it's supposed to be an innate thing that comes into play when you know that you're becoming a parent. You know, and it's like, okay, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to make sure I'm providing for my children.
Not too many people.
Yeah,
think
man,
like
don't say that. Yeah.
No,
it's
that's
not
ideal.
true,
No,
right?
that's
Look at
ideal.
that.
I would.
Who doesn't have that like initial thought,
I
thought
get-
process
I get-
when they is like, you know what, I'm about, like, granted, you have some individuals. I'm not gonna say everybody may have that, but there's, for the most part, even some people like, because I work with youth that come from various backgrounds and they have a lot of challenges, issues that they're dealing with life, but they still have one of the initial perspectives that they share with me is like, I'm excited to do this because I want to do this for my child.
Oh,
Not
you
everyone
know.
thinks like that. I mean, that's amazing. What you're saying, that thought, and the parents that think that way, that's great, but not everyone does.
Hold on, let me just to wrap this piece up. You trying to say the initial idea of like, see, girl's pregnant or like, you know, the baby's born. You're like, oh my God, I'm gonna be like that. Is that what you're talking about? Like the initial.
I'm saying that I don't know.
Provide, I guess.
There's in most of the interactions I had with just people with various backgrounds, knowing that they are becoming a parent, there's a level or a sense of urgency that they present. How deep, how substantial
Everybody
it is.
do that.
That's what I'm saying.
Everybody does that.
It's like whether or not you continue to build on that once the child is here. Some people like may check out, whatever being the case, and like they might feel like this was something that a responsibility that I really think was going to be that much of a responsibility. I don't know.
I'm moving past being a parent. I'm moving past just goddamn everything in life. Like you excited or you, oh my God, I'm gonna do. And then when it's time to execute, like you talk about execution, right, and task oriented stuff. Ain't there. And that's to that point with the people from various backgrounds who say they're excited or a certain sense of urgency to become a dad or a mother or whatever, and then when baby's there, it's like, oh shit, this, yikes, right? Like you gotta like just like a relationship. Yeah, baby, I love you. All this, it's like you gotta put in that work. Like
A year later.
right, and right, because you gotta execute. So that I'll put that to everything.
But really quickly, just one more thing I want to add on that. There's this meme, actually. Who would have thought, referencing a meme? They pretty much say, I can't remember verbatim, but go at it like it's your first time each time. So, and I try to do that. Sometimes I forget to, but if you think about it, even in a relationship, like always make sure that person, you know, you show them why you were into them at the very start, your job. Even for me, at some point, I've been at JP for 2 years and I got a lot of really good feedback, and at some point I just became a little complacent in my role, but then I was like, okay, no, I gotta get it together. Like, I still have to show them why I'm here, why I deserve this seat. In terms of coping with complacency, the way you deal with that, if you don't have someone there to like speak to you about this, just go at everything as if it's your first day, because there's always someone that's trying to go out there and get what you have. So you have to show and prove why it's yours, whether it's a relationship, career, family, like whatever it is. Like, go at it like it's your first.
Okay. How can blaming and excuses lead to further complacency?
Okay, let's see. That's kind I think it just goes to the we kind of touched on a different point so far. You're not owning up, right? And I've experienced this both personal and professional, where you know you create an excuse. So you're not looking to you know, trying to blame other forces instead of looking inwards and saying, you know what, maybe it's my fault, right? So for example, like in my job, like a guy came over and I actually got, I'm not going to go into much, at least in this topic, this question, but I actually became complacent, right? I got bored. Boredom was the catalyst for my complacency in this scenario. And I put someone, we both spoke in a room, like a peer, a coworker, and she was like, she kind of broke it down to me. She's like, why are you making excuses? Like, that's not their fault. That's your fault for not doing X, Y, Z, right? You should have done this. And maybe if you look at it this way, you would have been able to put yourself in a better position and not battle complacency, right? The things you say you want to do, right, or you want to improve, why not just do it? Who are you waiting for to instruct you that you have enough clout or whatever to create something and say this is, you know, propose something to senior managers or whatever? So it doesn't make you don't own up to it, and to me, if that doesn't happen, if you're not able, two things for me: if you're not able to admit it, that's the first step. But I go back to what I said before, the execution, right? So I can, in relationship, I could, girl, like, my bad, like, I could admit my wrong, but if I don't go out and do something to change it, then maybe a week after, I'm gonna be back in the same place that I was. And I think when you kind of don't look inwards and create excuses for other people, right? I was in a relationship where every time there was a problem, the person, I would critique them or say, hey, this is a problem, and they would come back and say, well, no, you need to, instead of saying, you know what, that's my bad, I apologize, you're right, let me find ways to work on it. They always kept, nope, like pointing a finger back, and as a result, well, that's why we ain't together no more. Long story
But
short.
it's how my parents raised me. It's the white man's fault. These are things that play a part with me blaming.
Oh, well, that's.
It's the police.
It's easier. It's
Ah.
also easier
You
to
get it.
blame. It's
Go ahead.
easier. It's easier to blame.
I got something to say, but I want to go ahead. That's a big one.
No. I mean, to what you just
I'm
said.
throwing those
Yeah,
out
yeah.
there. Because these are
Malcolm
the things
XYZ
that
me.
people will like blame. You know, this is
True.
they like, people will immediately probably go to like how they were raised or their surroundings as the reason why they might be struggling or challenged in life. You know, so it's like those are things that may come up. It's like how my parents raised. If someone grew up in a foster care system, it's a challenging system to grow up
Yes.
in. You know, if someone had, depending on the neighborhood they grew up in, they were like, you know, had a lot of police contact or whatever in any case, that could be something that heavily affected them, you know, and their decisions that they made in life. You know, some people who just didn't have exposure, you know, but felt like they were slighted by the white man or whatever being the case, can, you know, or the privilege that they may have and the lack of privilege that they have can feel some kind of way too as well.
I agree. But talking about the white man,
She used air quotes, guys.
No.
I'll let you know. She put
no,
air quotes
I
up there.
do
Random.
think that systematically we have been set back. I think it's
Still.
very important to acknowledge that, but also take responsibility, try to fix you, look to see, you know, what is going on with you, and keep in mind that, you know, we do still have, unfortunately, we have to work 2 and 3 times harder just to get the same opportunities. Keep that in mind, but fix yourself as well, just to help you to navigate through life.
And I'm gonna use you as an example. Like, you think you'd have been a CEO of your own company, LLC, if you said, "Well, man, they ain't gonna." I'm using air quotes. The white man ain't gonna give me a shot or a chance. So why am I even trying? Like, what's the purpose of all this if I'm never gonna be where I want to go? Like, I think I was telling you or someone, I was like, so I've been where I am at maybe 4 years in total, and I was the only black guy in my group. And I remember HR people, they were like, I'm cool with one of the people. Then she was like, "Is that a problem?" We had a one-on-one, and she's like, "I was the only black male, right? There are other people of color, but only black male, and everybody else is white." So, to your point about upbringing, I was single parent, man. My dad was there, but he wasn't. I grew up back home. He wasn't there, right? So, you single parent, you don't think that's more difficult, right? We immigrated over here, me and my sister, and we doing a damn thing. But yes, it's more difficult, but that's not an excuse because I made it, right? And I felt there were chances. I always say I'm a little bit lucky with certain things, but there's definitely people who have, whether it be upbringing, right? Whether it be, you mentioned the police, right? It's harder. You mentioned obviously the hardship, the systematic oppression that people of color have had. So all that counts, but I think you said it perfectly, whereas you can't let that, say, okay, well then I'm gonna give up. You gotta look inwards and say, okay, how can I be better? Because I look at it well then what we playing the game for? If you tell me you're always gonna lose basketball, sports analogy, if you're always gonna lose a basketball game, then why are you trying to go in the game for? Then stay on the bench. And that's not the case. You want to be successful. You want your own career. You want to start your own business. You want to be, in HR. I think you said you want to maybe be a senior vice president or managing director someday at JP Morgan. I don't know. Oh, there we go. Right. But the idea is, if you won't have all these goals and different things, if we're stacked against it, then why even play the game, right? So that's why I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's difficult. It's harder. You always got on your being toes. I know people at work get away with certain things that I could never get away with, and I know it for a fact, and I've said it, and someone said, "Yep, but Simba, that's how the game go. You just got to play it." But that doesn't mean that you don't try to put your best foot forward to continue to persevere, right? And I think over time, we'll be in a better position as, black people as a whole will be in a better position, but it got to start with that person individually. Don't look at the left side, don't look at the right, look in the mirror and say, yo, it starts with me. And if you do that and everyone else does that 10, 20 years from now, I don't know if anyone has kids, but our kids or right, our kids will look and be like, yo, I'm in a better position than
A kid is a young Billy Goat, right?
a child machine. A child machine. A male or female child.
Yes. Appreciate you.
From the species human.
Goats and complacent.
No, but what I feel honestly speaking, when it comes to this, I think. Sorry. Got a little popularity going on over here. No, joking. But seriously speaking, I think it always has to be an eternal looking, and you have to look first at yourself before you look externally. I think that's how it always has to start in life, because I always feel like I can't just immediately just say I'm looking outside of myself and I'm just going to start blaming people for my shortcomings. I have to really think about why am I coming up short, and then try to build from there. But I use those examples because I feel like those are probably the more popular examples that people might gravitate to. These are the reasons why, I'm stuck in this dysfunctional system of life, or this cycle where I'm not succeeding, I'm failing. And, those are the things. It's like, it's really complicated, especially because I do use development to see someone that I can tell has a lot of potential, but they can fully tap into that because their environment, their home environment, or their life conditions is just a constant reminder of suffering and challenges and dysfunction, that they don't feel the sense of urgency, they don't feel inspired, and even if they come into what in the work that we do in the nonprofit is to like create a comfortable and safe space, but they may really feel like it's just temporary because they know what they're going back into, and it's just like, okay, we just reliving this thing over and over again because it has some level of significance, but not enough for me to be able to feel like I can really fight and overcome it. I made the lady speechless over that.
So speechless.
45 minutes. Does complacency exist both in the workplace and your personal life?
I ain't gonna say nothing about that because I've been talking about that the whole goddamn. So, ladies, Eugene.
I do believe it does, absolutely. I know an individual who, this kind of relates to the prior question. She she can find the issues in everybody else, but she doesn't look at herself and see what's going on the inside. So that can affect her relationship life, that can affect her job life, or if she wants to branch off into another career. If you're constantly looking at somebody else and you can't see what's wrong with you, it's distracting, right? You're distracted by what everybody else is doing instead of focusing on what you're doing. So,
Melanie?
I agree. I think it can exist work life, personal life, friendships. It's just a matter of really taking a step back to see where everything is at and just where you want to be and trying to bridge that gap. So it exists.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And like to tease this out some more, or kind of like speak to this, I feel like, and I'm sure you'll probably observe this, where someone that knows that they have the potential to go for a promotion, but chooses not to go for that opportunity because they feel like, if I take on that level of responsibilities, the level of issues, the politics might be too much for me, to actually undertake that opportunity. But it's like, when you think about it, you going into that opportunity knowing how you are and how you feel like, say for example, you have the line staff. So in terms of the line staff, what the challenges and what the issues that you might have been undergoing. And they have a manager or a supervisor that's over them that like this person, they're not too good, but because that person that knows that they can actually transition into that role and probably be better and help others, decides, I'm not going to do that because I see what the dysfunction has been created by the upper management. Does that make sense? So it's like that person's not going to try to pursue something further because they feel like it's just another level of dysfunction that they don't want to encounter. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna become complacent in this role. I've been working in this role for 6-7 years, and when I'm deciding I'm gonna leave the company, then that's what I'm gonna do, instead of to try to grow up and and actually build more within that company. If that makes sense.
No, it makes sense.
So that's kind of like the way I was looking at it. It's like I had a friend of mine who was like, oh yeah, I got this opportunity to be a manager, but I'm not taking it. I was like, what?
That happens, and I don't
It's like,
understand
what?
it, but it happens.
And it's like,
It happens.
and it's like, even if it's like, say for example, maybe in a field that, okay, well, you worked at let's just say a McDonald's. Worked at McDonald's, you became a manager at McDonald's. You still stepped into a leadership role. I think that would look good on your resume regardless if it was at McDonald's, but some people are like, nah, hell no. So I don't know. But I always find that really interesting to see like where people can be at in the workplace. Of course, definitely personal life, people definitely become complacent, but I feel more focused on like the workplace because it's like you're working.
well,
You're working towards something,
I agree. I think you would have to, like, for people like that, you would have to take into consideration how they were raised. Perhaps sometimes people have, unfortunate childhoods where, family members may speak to them in a negative manner, speak down to them, or make them feel that they'll never amount to anything. So that when they grow up and they get a job and they do have an opportunity to move forward, they don't take it because in their mind they feel like, well, I'm not going to amount to anything. I'm not worthy of this. I'm not going to be able to function. So there's a lot that goes into that.
I also say, like, playing devil's advocate, like, I know people, like,
You know people?
Alright, so
Go ahead.
I got targets on you, she and Melanie. We good right here. I don't know how long. We good right here. I got targets on them. I was just playing devil's advocate. Like, I know, like, on the flip side, there's people who deliberately do it, not because they're afraid, not because of issues at the home, how they were brought up, but some people, like, I know if I go to, like, I got a friend, he's an engineer. When you become an engineer, you bachelor's, you do engineering and master's, right? You still do, but it gets to a certain point where if you're a tinkerer or you're a doer, like you're the creative, and you want to, like, build things and create things, and you're going to be, like, the higher you go, the further away you go from that. So you move yourself, like the CEO.
That's definitely another way to look at it.
Right? So CEO, like, or you're a manager, like when you got, like, summer interns or something like that, or you're managing people, a lot of times you can't actually create, like if you got to create a deck or you got to do some analysis and market research or something, you're not going to be doing that if you're a manager. What you're going to be doing is reviewing it. Okay, that looks good. All right, make sure you change this here. Where do you get this from? Double check that,
You're
right?
at JP. Sounds a lot like my job.
Strike two, Melanie. Better watch out. Right? So you do that, right? Where you kind of review, right? You just have people bring things to you. You review, you delegate, right? And I remember at a point where that was very difficult for me to do, right? So I don't have any directly, at least this year, as far as interns, but you have a team that you work with who indirectly really report to you, like you're the leader of the team, and you could do certain things that they can do, but you have to take a step back and say, no, you know what, I have to delegate, and I have to let people do these things for me and just review it. Yep, it looks good, and then sending off to the senior management team or whatever. So I think a lot of people I know for a fact, they do not want to be promoted, not because of the pay or the responsibilities, but more so what their role is going to be for that job. And that role is going to entail less, working on the 10,000 feet level. You're going to be at 30,000 feet, and I'm not going to be able to, like, if you're tinkering, I'm creating the design, and I'm doing this, I'm going to be reviewing the design, but I want to create it, right? And a lot of people say, I'm not sure. You know what they say? They say either they remain in the same position or they want to create their own shop. They want to learn as much as they can in the company that they're with, and then they want to say, hey, great time, thanks for the opportunity, and build their own thing where they're still the boss, but they have so much more input. Like working for a startup, right? You find people, like I have colleagues who want to go to a startup because they kind of getting away from what they want to do. In a startup, you're able to do so many different things, right? You're the problem solver, you're the designer, you're thinking abstractly, but you're also there in the weeds with the other team members instead of just being the guy sitting in the penthouse suite, right? Top floor, looking at the results. Okay, I don't like that metric. Okay, how can we get this, right? And you're just looking at numbers, right? So that's why I look at the flip side. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a problem there. It just means that maybe that's not what I want to do, right? All right, okay.
I don't even have no
I
rebuttal.
don't want any problems.
Okay, you better not go on that strike
I don't
three.
want any
All right, you
problems.
better not. You're on two.
How does one remain ambitious when they are succeeding?
I think it's just innate. Like, there's just this desire you just have it in you. You can't build ambition. It's just this drive. Someone mentioned earlier, just having that drive, and I think it's just in you. And in terms of, like, I don't know, it's helpful to get a mentor if you need more momentum and more of that push to try to see where you want to go.
I want to just add something on that because some people can't identify with that. A mentor, someone that could come in and ask. Some people may not look at someone else becoming a mentor for them. Some people don't know how to go about doing that. So they don't know how to be able to reach out and secure that resource.
Okay.
So once again, if someone, especially if you grow up in a dysfunctional household, you don't know what that means. You
Yeah.
know,
What?
like for example, to add on to that is like, granted, like even some of, let's say, just working in the field I worked in, I've seen people that they see that what is being presented to them is a lot of positive energy. A lot of energy to help them keep them motivated, keep them encouraged, keep them, focused. However, when it's like a stage of, say, you in this program for 3 months, only 3 months. Once the 3 months is over, then it's like there's other things you could continue to work on. We're not telling you we close the door. The door is still open. You can still feel free to take advantage of a resource, but they don't. They'll let it go. They don't stay in contact. And it's like, why you didn't want to stay in contact? If you felt like this person was such a positive motivation to you, why would you discontinue that? But people end up doing that,
I think it goes back to your desire. How bad do you really want it? You know what I mean? People don't chase whims. You know what I mean? They change their mind every 5 seconds, and then when they're finished playing with it, they're on to the next thing. So if you really, really desire something, you're gonna go after it.
As far as the question, like, I'm not so I think you guys are talking about the drive and like what's innately in you. I look sometimes because, okay, so for example, I remember when I first came, when I started there, and I was like, man, I used to like stay overtime. I would be, and I'm not booking it like, because you're supposed to be there at a certain time. So when your managers are like, why are you still here? I'm like, nah, I'm just doing like self-study. I used to be like doing trainings and anything, because there's a whole bunch of access that you have to a whole bunch of different things. So I said, hey, if this is something that I remember, like when you were an intern, and I'm like interning at all these Ivy League. I was super intimidated, right? So I was like, whoa, like, but I wanted to do better. So I remember I felt like I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna just stay long. I'm just will not only work harder than you, but work smarter than you. That's very important. But so that was fine, and that was great, and right. Then I got to a point where I became complacent, talking about that. And I personally felt that I had the hunger and the drive and the ambition to be successful, and I was successful. You're getting it from all your peers.
Why did it sound that way when you started saying that? It's like the hunger and the drive and the ambition. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
Don't interrupt.
I was
again.
thrown off a little bit by that.
Don't be disrespectful.
Hunger.
No, but like I got complacent, and I remember like I was like, man, what happened? Like I had like ain't a problem. I had it. Like what, right? And I felt that like I had the drive to be successful, yet I still became complacent. And I think sometimes, definitely we talking career-wise, professional world, there are going to be instances where things are not going to go your way. It's not going to go the way you plan. You're going to be put in, groups or projects or work with people. If you work for a bad manager, that makes you complacent. I'll be honest. If you had a bad manager, you're working that you're not working for that manager. But I remember I had an indirect manager. So the project I was working on, he was the lead. So I had to work with him to get the job done. But he was horrible, and everyone knew that. And obviously they wanted to get rid of him, right? And they eventually did. But during the time he was there, he was horrible, right? And everyone who worked with him wanted to be removed from that, right? But eventually, you got to fix. You can't like just leave the leaking pipes. Someone has to fix it, even though it sucks.
Leaking pipes. Okay. I like that one.
I should have brought a notebook.
Oh my God.
That was a good one.
All right, man.
Sometimes you gotta pay homage. Go ahead, sir.
So this guy. So I got complacent, and I felt that not so bad manager. I got complacent. I got complacent with a bad project. Like I felt I was like, hold on, like I'm supposed to be a top performer, and this the shit that you gonna put me on? Excuse my language, but like that's what you gonna put me on? And so I got bored. I got like, you know what? I want to quit, or you know what? I'm trying to look. I literally remember speaking to my mentor, and that mentor point is definitely important. And I was like, yo, why do you recommend me for this role? Like I want out. This sucks. Like, can I come back? Like, can you put me somewhere else? Cause I ain't doing the long hours that I was doing. I ain't love it. I ain't got the passion for it. I want to go. And he had to your mentor point, he had to like put it in perspective for me. And when different things are like a lot of turnover or a lot of different managers, someone who's young and coming in, or someone who doesn't know it, that is a lot to take in. You're like, you know, you can lose a lot of confidence in that, right? Because I think it's confidence is like ebbs and flows. Like everyone's not Kanye, who apparently got all, at least how he was rapping, how he was saying it, like before the old Kanye, where he had so much confidence, he didn't care what anyone else said, and it propelled him to where he is today, right? And obviously, I know a lot of people feel differently about Kanye now, but back when he came out, that was his mantra. He was like, I don't care what you say, my confidence is more than your doubt, and it would drive him there. So, but for me, I think it's just an ebb and a flow. And to your point, sometimes you do need mentors to step in and help you out. But I wouldn't necessarily say to wrap it all back. I wouldn't necessarily say to to be successful, like you can't have doubt or you can't have a drop in confidence, or it doesn't have to be innate. No, it could be innate. And there are other external things that's why we battle against complacency. I don't think it's a thing that you always win. I think, you lose a battle or a round, but you eventually come out on top. Like if it's a 3 rounds, you win 2 out of, you're right. Or if it's a war, you win the war. You lose a couple battles, but you still win the war. Because there's sometimes
Ideally.
Ideally, right? But there's some things that sometimes you can't win, right? And the politics of work, right? Anybody who work in corporate, there's tons of politics, right? I mentioned I was a black male. People ask me if as a result of that, if it impacts my standing, and I had a talk. Okay, I'll be honest. I had a talk with my manager about, you guys say I'm a top performer. You say I'm part of the A team. I get all these reviews. I had all these feedback. I've been getting the top recognition every single year, and I was like, then why am I not being put in a position to be successful? You understand what I'm saying? And as a result of, as a result of not being able to be put in a successful position, it made me be complacent, right? And to your point, that's why I got an offer for something else, right? Where I feel like that's going to challenge me and give me that same energy and passion that I had when I first came to just go, continue to climb the ladder, right? So that's my 2 cents there. Why are you looking at me like that? Why are you looking at me like that? Hold on, you know what?
No.
I was about to say, talk to your girl.
Whoa.
I'm an HR buddy.
I know. Watch yourself.
So, you don't think I know people in HR? I know some EDs and MDs too.
Don't worry.
Okay, I'm gonna come at you.
Listen.
I'm gonna come at you.
We are one.
Not today.
Put the gloves back on, please.
Take them off.
But just going back to the question, how does one remain ambitious when they are succeeding? Just making sure that's said, because it's speaking to a point that I want to make. And I know sometimes it's discouraging. I think when you just face various challenges, when you have certain goals, and then you feel like they are, they're being impeded, like someone is presenting a barrier to you attaining your goals. But I think one has to just be mindful of their values. I think at various, it could be coming just maybe various points that you realize that there's certain things that you do value about life, and then you look to develop those values and then try to build on them and continue to build on them. But those are the main things that I feel like always keeps me sane. I feel like even though I feel like I haven't attained all that I wanted to attain, I know that those values will still keep me whole, and understand that I'm still having positive impact. And I think that's one of the main drivers for me, is knowing that I'm still having positive impact, regardless if I have to deal with a bad relationship, or a challenging relationship, or dealing with a supervisor or a manager who you don't inspire me. I can't consider you a leader. I don't look at you as a boss, because you don't do enough to be considered that level or demand that respect from me. But I'm going to do my job. I'm going to still make sure at the end of the day I'm having impact, and it is what it is when it comes from that.
So I was just going to say about that. That's why I think having not only mentors, but having people to talk to. Because to me, at least me, I'm talking about personal experience. It doesn't matter how my values are. If you pray to the man above, and you give me strength and all these different things. Sometimes you just don't got it.
Don't got what in terms of?
Like that will sometimes, that drive, like, man, sometimes a bad day is a bad day and you don't got it. I'm
And it's
sorry.
okay, yeah.
Right, and it's
That's
okay,
fine.
right? Like, I remember, like, there was a conference, or rather a meeting where these people came in, and I think you said a saying, like, treat every day like your first. And I was like, that's great, but damn, that's hard.
It's hard.
That's hard, like, to perform at a high level every single day,
Not
regardless
every
of.
day, but
Well, that's what
just
Isn't that like for you treating every
not
day like your
day,
first?
not
Isn't
every
that what you
day,
said though?
but-
Right, right. I'm listening. No, but the
I
idea.
don't know if she feels comfortable with you jacking what she said and then trying to,
It's
and trying to,
it's a
Fine.
safe space.
and
Right.
trying, you trying
you
to
know?
define it in your own words, and she's not feeling too
Jack
comfortable
Camille.
because she feels like you're losing the point of the message. I think that's what Melanie's trying
Oh,
to say.
okay.
But
Let her say that. No, but
wasn't she interrupting you when you decided to go off on your tangent?
No.
See,
What
Rashi, we right here.
Oh.
See, I see this coming.
he's such an instigator. You guys, the listeners, I wish you could see this. No, but damn, what I was saying. No, damn, bro.
To be or
All right.
not to
No,
be?
no. What I was saying is like the values, and sometimes
Your
like
conference, you were
yeah.
at a conference.
Oh, there we go. So
Oh,
and
I'm
there-
listening too.
and I can't remember who was the guy. I think it was either the previous Prime Minister of England, Tony Blair, or someone from the army, like some senior guys, one of those guys, and they were like being at like about performance and how to maintain that standard of excellence, right? Every single day, right? We're talking about work here, but you've obviously in your personal life that just have different things and find a way, whether it be a system or a task. Wake up early. Like if you got to work out, you want to go to the gym, and that's your goal. Like you got to be at it every, how many days you set aside and just do that thing. But there's some days where it's gonna be right. You're gonna just be in a funk, right? So I just want to add on to that. At least for me, my opinion, it doesn't matter how much values I have. Like I remember like talking to my mom and dad, and I was like, "Yo, guys, like, how do you keep doing all this for all these years?" Like I literally remember like coming home, like there was a point in time I used to wake up in the morning, go gym, get ready for
It
work,
gets exhausting.
cooked, and like I'm like, guys, and my mom, like she had 3 of us. I'm like, you superwoman. Like, how do you do that? And you were single. Like, how do you do that? Because I'm tired out of my goddamn mind.
I'm tired.
Every
I don't have any children. Tired.
every day. And so that's why I'm saying it. If you can have your values, and that can be that kind of like that kind of thing that sets you in your anchor for the day, right? Amazing, regardless of what's going on at work, and your managers and your workers and your coworkers and your peers and the people that you report to you, etc. But I'm saying, me personally, I think it's good to have a mentor that sometimes you just need somebody, like a pep talk. That's why you talk to friends, right? Yo, nah, this is gonna be good. Like and it wakes you up, right? Or your parents, or wakes you up, or your sister, or your brother, right? That helps me keep my level up, even though my values are there. Sometimes you're just gonna be down, man. It's just maybe today is not your day. That's why I think with last point, I don't know, I'm rambling on at this point. Like sometimes when they say you work out,
We're gonna let you finish.
like sometimes when you work out and they have this, I think it's designed, and they talk about like when you battle against complacency, these are the kind of things, recharging your batteries, like that can help. Going on vacation, like with work,
Oh yes.
or like a cheat day. You working out. Working out is not just working out. You got to eat well too. Drink all the essential water. No, let me not give them that plug. Drink all the water that you need,
Water.
right? That helps, right? But sometimes it's like it's too much. You need a day to just recharge, reboot. Have a cheat day, right? I'm not trying to be an athlete, right? But even athletes have a cheat day, right? So I think that helps in battling against complacency.
And I think just not getting comfortable. I know the everyday line I mentioned earlier, my point was just don't get comfortable. And I think even for me at my company, at some point I got comfortable because I was getting all this good feedback, doing very well, and I got comfortable. And so that's like one point that I wanted to mention. And also in terms of leveling up, just find an outlet, whether it's like going on vacation, spending time with your friends, just watching Netflix, ordering Chinese food, whatever it is, like just find that outlet.
Netflix and chill? Well, not just Netflix.
Just Netflix,
All right.
Chinese food, that's it.
I was gonna say something. Let me. All right. I'm sorry.
All right.
Shane. Go ahead.
Are you sure? Okay. So, no, one thing I wanted to just briefly bring back up was when I talked about the values, of course, I feel like you gotta first think about internally, what are the things that you value. Mentorship is a value. You taking advantage of like actually going out your way to have a conversation with someone that you know can probably provide you some good insight or advice in terms of how you can just change your perspective. I'm definitely not going to deny, like, we all get into funks at some point or whatever the case. Sometimes it's like, when you're so used to hustling and bustling, and then like you like take a lazy day at home, you be discontent with that. It's like, damn, should I be laying down for 5 hours? Should I be watching Netflix, eating my Chinese food, making sure my wings is crispy with the salt and pepper and all that? Should I be doing that? Sometimes it's like, you feel some kind of way about that. It's like, damn, I did binge watch Luke Cage, but I should probably be outside right now because there's probably some other things I may need to get done.
Bushmaster was good, man. Nope, I binge watched that too.
And it's always interesting too, because I don't know if some like interviewers feel this way, but it's like when it's a nice day outside, for some reason just being in the house for like too long is like, nah, I gotta get out there.
Yeah.
There's too much going on out there.
Yeah.
Like,
But some people don't think like that, but I do.
I don't know if it's like a melanin thing, for African Americans or whatever being the case, and it speaks to the energy. I don't know. It's like, I'm just joking, but I definitely feel like that's always something. Like, I think for the most part, for most people, when it comes to maybe warm weather, it kind of like sparks something that is maybe not easily able to identify, but it causes them to say, you know what, I don't want to sit on my ass right now. I want to get up and do something. If it's recreational, it's like I still want to get up and do something.
I agree with that. I think it's a different impact when you're coming from growing up in another place. It's a different impact because of the different seasons, and because it's cold. Damn near a lot of times when it's sunny, it's like the energy is there. But if you grew up in a place that's always sunny, it really ain't gonna mean nothing. Because I tell you, there's a bunch of complacent dudes back home. I know I'm getting shots. I know I'm gonna get in trouble for that. But there's a bunch of like sunny all the time, right? So energy is always is either dry or rainy season. So either really sunny or sometimes really rainy. There are a lot of complacent crap that goes on where it's nice outside, the energy is there. Like I agree with the energies and all that, and they're like, nah, I'm good. Or they need to do something. Nah, I'm good. As long as I party and drink, we good. What are you trying to do? So I would just add to that. It helps when you're in a city or a state or whatever that has certain climates, and so when you're like inside all the time with winter and fall and whatnot, and as soon as summer hits or spring, as soon as you realize in New York, as soon as it gets a little bit hot, everybody in their shorts.
Radio's
Yes.
blasting out.
Everybody, every year since I've been here, every year, and that's never been like that from obviously where I grew up, right? So just want to add to that.
Do you agree that people are wired to take the path of least resistance? To take the path of least resistance. Do you think people are wired, like, when they feel like, delay, I don't have to, like, the fast life is what the fast life is. I'm going to choose that. I don't want to delay gratification. I want to just get what's right here. I'm always going to look for the shortcuts. It's just like, it's more helpful for me.
And you're asking if people are happy with that, or
Do you think people would choose? They choose more to choose the path of least resistance. I don't want to deal with the process. I don't want to fill out 5 applications or this long ass application for Century 21 and then do a survey and all this other stuff. I want to just submit my resume, get the interview, show you that I can do the job, and be hired.
I do feel that they choose that sometimes. Whether or not they're happy with it, I would have to say I can't see somebody being happy with choosing a path with the least resistance. Just like in terms of just being successful, the fulfillment of your purpose. So that's how I would define it. The fulfillment of purpose. A lot of times that takes faith. You have to step out on faith and do things that some people would think are crazy, just to get where you want to be. So I'm losing myself here, but I think they choose it. I just don't think they're happy with that. They just, I don't know why they would do such a thing. I would
What
have
do
to
you
look back
mean?
into their.
I'm selling drugs for a reason. I'm trying to get this money.
Okay, that's a
I'm
reason.
not doing
Okay,
no
wait,
9
hold
to
up.
5, yo.
Hold
Stop
up. Back in
playing
the
with
day, when I was having
I'm
issues
trying
with
to get
paying for
this
school.
money, yo.
All right. When I was having issues with paying for school, that did cross my mind. Robbing a strip club crossed my mind. I didn't act out on it, but it did cross my mind because I felt that could be a step towards where I needed to be. Of course, I'm joking. Nobody got the joke.
Yeah,
But
I
all right, nobody.
Now I got you. I didn't want to say that.
Let's stop. I'm sure it crossed every last one of your minds.
Where you from again, Tashanta?
So let's
Yo, what's that you playing, yo?
everybody. Oh, please.
Share
Come
the
on.
wealth.
No,
Feel back.
admit it. It crossed all of my minds.
I
Even the
think-
engineer in the other room.
Hey, yo, Mike, man.
Leave that gentleman out of it. But I honestly feel that there's so many examples that we saw where people have chose the path of least resistance. I think, if we go like even to like in school, and you probably need to study for a test, you didn't study, so you cheated. Path of least resistance.
Well, did that person have time? There's other things, you have
I'm
other
not
classes.
saying it can be both sides. They could have had time. They could have not had time. Still chose to cheat.
Okay.
It was the path of least resistance.
Right.
So,
But so I feel like there's just multiple examples. Yes, I joked and used the example of a drug dealer, but a lot of people just think like the fast life has to just mean that someone's selling drugs, but it's like it is just a mentality of just saying, you know what, I don't want to go through these processes. I would prefer to have things come quicker instead of it being longer for me to have to like, oh, now I need to build up credit, really, to get a house.
so you want to go? I wanted to say like, and just to like, because I'm hearing things and I'd be remiss.
Hearing.
I'd be remiss.
I know people. This guy.
No, like I think a lot of what the examples that you brought up, I think to me, like the majority is, and obviously for the folks over here haven't seen me, I'm African American, I'm black, but I think a lot of like the experiences you talked about is like people in the black community. Like I'm not sure other ethnicities would have those same experiences. So what I'm about to say is like the drug dealing and like you rappers and all that you hear, the dream, the fast life for them was drug dealing or playing ball, right? You always hear it in rap songs, and even to this day, people still bring up those things. I think also another point with people in the black community is, and I think you touched on it before, like the systematic oppression, right? So, and I try not to go by that because I try to think glass half full, and I'm like, man, I don't care, we still gonna run it, right? Like that's my mentality, but you gotta say the flip side too, which is we've been oppressed for a certain while, so we've kind of like that whole psychological thing where it's like, well, the path of least resistance is what you've kind of been like coerced or like trained to take, right? Because if you were to take the path that all the other people, so-called successful people are taking, maybe you guys will be in a better position, and that's not what we want, right? So we're gonna kind of force you and put you in a box where you're gonna be forced to choose or think the fast life is drug dealing. And
You think drug dealing only applies to black people?
I think the scenario you made, if other people were in this room, I think, and I'm gonna speak for myself. I think a lot of it is geared towards people in the black community.
Okay.
Growing up, that's what growing up, whether in the media, what you saw on television, what you hear people say, yes, black community. This is what I said before. They
Black
think
people or minorities?
I said people in the black community, because I don't think Asians would be considered minorities, right? And obviously, everyone, like, if you want to go kingpin status, everyone has their like, the mob, the Italians, right? The Asians, they got their gangs, and everyone obviously has their gangs and their little crew and whatnot, in whatever illegal activity they're doing.
So Hispanics are considered to be part of the black community?
No. That's why I said the black community. What I'm saying, I'm calling out.
I'm trying to get some clarity here. That's why I'm asking.
African Americans, people that look like
but you're
Jimmy
saying
and
in
Sheep.
the black community, so Hispanics are part of that community as well, as other, like, maybe people, like, say, for example, if you say just Hispanics period, because you could probably say Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, and so forth would be all Hispanics, but it's like they exist in those environments as well.
In my eyes, I would say, like, I would have probably used minorities if I wanted to include Hispanics. When I say black community, I mean people who look like you and me. And I'm going by so I didn't grow up in this country, right? But, obviously I know how the media play and back and forth. I don't want to go into a discussion about the media, but how black people, the black community, have been portrayed in the media as far as thinking the fast life is doing drugs. What you see on all the goddamn movies a lot of times, right, is people who look like me, right? So I think it's, at least to me, I feel like a lot of times the fast life and people in our community, they make it seem like if those are the only two things. And what I'm saying is, I think it's because, not all of it, but it's because of being put in a particular situation, right, by the man, right, to ensure that, yep, that's what we're going to keep you as, and we're going to keep you in this box to make you think that's your only way out, which in essence is not. You're like a hamster, right, on that wheel, when in fact, if I took you off of that wheel, look at all this thing I got, right? I think that plays a part into it, in my opinion. So I just wanted to say that side of it, where people think that's the fast life, but it's not really, not to put a blame, but there are other reasons why we're in those communities, or even people in those communities think that that's the answer to their problems in that scenario, because it could be a fast life to you. You mentioned the strip club, right? Robbing the strip club. I definitely ain't gonna think of that, right?
I don't do that.
I definitely didn't think of that, right? But just if you want to go, just on that particular scenario example, but if you were to talk about like fast life, you're generalizing it to answer that question. I just think it goes, again, the complacency thing, and you don't want to put in the work. It goes to the mental points, right? I definitely at certain points felt I wanted to take the easy way out, and I had people in my life to tell, nah, if you take this route, this is where you're gonna end up. It's a shortcut. You're gonna seem like if it's not gonna have a lot of treacherous pathways or whatnot. It's gonna seem like if it's all smooth, but you're gonna get to a dead end. And wherever you want to go, that's not whatever you're thinking of or where you dream to go. That's not where you're gonna go. So I have people in my life to be like shifted, and I think with me, with everyone else, is sometimes, and not everyone, but like nothing happens before it's time. So I go back to the when you have siblings, like their siblings, like I have my sister, like super smart, right? That innate drive, she probably had it more than me, right? On her own, like on her own, right? Then my other sister, she probably didn't have it as much weight. She needed to push. I'm in the middle, right? They always be like, man, if you actually study, you half-assed. If you actually study, you probably really good, right? So I think a lot of it plays into that as well. Like if you just get a little bit of push, and then you see the bigger picture, you'll be able to make the right decision, and not say that making the quick decision or like microwave food is the right decision for whatever you want to do in life, whether it be personal, right, or whether it be professional.
Ladies, want to add anything?
I'd say that for some people, the fast life might be just what they know. So certain West Indian families, especially within Haitian households, you see your aunt, your mom, your grandma, they were all nurses. So that's what you're seeing. And even a lot of my friends, like, they majored in biology in college, and they wanted to pursue being a nurse. I have a little cousin, my aunt's pushing her to be a nurse. So you tend to do what you see is around you. And so just going back to the fast life, if you see everyone in your community, this is what they're doing to, they could be selling drugs or whatever the case is. Like, you're going to take that on and you're going to do that because that's what you know. Like, you don't know to do more. So for us, it's just a matter of like volunteering, doing what you can for other people so that they can see their potential, because some people just don't see that. If you put something behind me, I'm not going to see it. It's not until I turn around or someone helps me turn around that I can actually see it. So for a lot of people, they do things because it's what they see, it's what's around them, and it's very unfortunate. In some cases, being a nurse is not unfortunate at all, but it's probably not what someone wants to do, but because they see it around them, they'll be that nurse. But my friend, she actually turned out being a teacher. So, yeah, that's my point on that.
Do you want to ask something?
Okay.
Are you sure?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sure. I wanted to say that people do things because they see it. around them, but also their circumstances, like the fast life. If you have you're about to lose your home or something, like that has a time constraint. Like I have to have this certain amount of money by a certain time. That would make a person decide to do something they wouldn't ordinarily do. So I just wanna say that.
Maybe so like how I view that as like doing. I'm not sure there's a right word, but like doing the wrong thing for the right reasons, kind of thing.
Right.
You know.
Depending on your
Right.
circumstances.
Okay, I get that.
So you feel people are wired to take the path of least resistance?
We didn't answer the question, did we?
Some people are. I do think some people are wired, and some are able to get out of that by luck, by someone speaking to them, mentoring them, or just that drive. But I think some people are.
So yes, based
I
on
agree.
things you see, based on maybe systematic things, right? Yes, to answer your question.
Okay. Thank you. How does one overcome a false sense of security?
What do you mean by that?
Security.
False sense of security is, I think we kind of like spoke to this. So if someone feels like things are going well, with it, and it can actually lead that person probably be complacent, you know, not realizing that they have to make sure that it's shored up. You know, it's like you probably will continue to be making sure like your foundation is solid, but some people will start building a house or their house with knowing that there's holes in the foundation, if that makes sense. So it's like there's some level of contentment with the fact that, okay, well, I have these set of positive things going on this side, so I'm good. If I'm in a good job, say for example, I'm earning this amount of monies, and I'm good. Do you get it? I'm making this money. I'm eating good out here. I don't have to work on these other things as much as I have to make sure that I'm still maintaining this job because I'm making this amount of money that I feel content with. Does that make sense? As provide an example. So
How did he not fall into that?
I look at that like the same thing, like that's complacency, right? Like having,
but it's like a false sense of security is the fact is that you're saying you're secure because I have that one thing. That's why I use that example. I have this job. I'm earning this certain amount of monies. That's my security, and that's it. It's not really trying to focus on the other things because honestly speaking, you have say for example, you have the person that takes the job on that they know they're not passionate about, but they earn so much money,
right?
They stay in that job, right? But then the other things that speaks to them about life, their passions, their, you know, if they are a creator, if these are things that actually helps them like grow in life, it feels like they have an impact, they're like, you know what, forget that. I'm gonna just concentrate on that.
Okay. Well.
Is that better in terms of like providing an example?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I had to take you through some
Okay.
things.
Okay. I got it. I think a person.
Thank you, Tashanta.
You're
Some
welcome.
people,
No.
you know what I mean? Key contributors, huh?
No.
Go ahead.
The whole
I think
time.
a person would need faith. Is my what is it? My what you call it? What do you call that thing? Cover photo on Facebook. I put what faith is. If I can get to it. But faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So just because you have money is not everything. I believe that everybody has a purpose in life, and you do need faith in order to step out on it. I look at, what's that guy that just committed suicide just a while back? Anthony
Bourdain.
Bourdain. He
The
had
chef,
all
the
that.
chef and yeah.
Right, he had all that money, but he wasn't happy, you know. And just because you have things, you can't ignore what your passion is or what your drive is. You have to go up after that. That's what I think.
Nobody else want to add anything? Well, appreciate you once again, Tashanta. The rest of this podcast is going to be you and I.
Yeah. I was talking a lot. I said, let me
I
fall
agree
back.
with her.
I said, let me fall
I
back.
appreciate you.
You didn't think I should fall back?
No, it's fine. But you know, just add a little bit more onto that. That speaks to kind of like how I perceived the question when I thought about it, because I really feel that if we are supposed to be universal learners, and I bring this up because I feel like we do so much. There's so many different interactions, things we take on that we can learn from, and it's like with that being the case, there's so much more that we can make sure that our foundation is as solid as it can possibly be, without it being compromised for, say, I want to take on this opportunity, I want to take on that opportunity, or I can earn this certain amount of monies, but regardless, I can do more than just earning these certain amount of monies. I don't just feel like, okay, one's goal in life should just be rich, and that's it. There should be more that one should be looking for in terms of establishing security and stability and so forth. So I feel like overall, however that person may deem fit and how they want to have an impact, it shouldn't just be based off of that, if that makes sense.
And so I 100% agree with you and everything you said as well. And it's funny, like when people should stop doing it. Maybe they don't realize, but like when you have a goal, like let's say your goal is I want to get X amount of dollars or earn X amount of income or money, like material things. When you get it, I'm not gonna lie, like you're like, all right, what's next?
Right.
Hey, I wanted this sneaker. Like let's say you're young, you're a teenager, and you get it. All right, like what? Like, I wanted this phone or iPhone or the computer or whatever, and you get it. It's like, so I think like people should definitely like strive for like multiple things. Like it's not just one thing that's gonna give you, have you happy or like, and it doesn't necessarily be material, because happiness or being passionate about it is not just one thing. But when you think about it and you have that one thing, that like you're definitely gonna have a full sense of security. So based on even experience, like my own personal experience, you should definitely like try to look to be happy or gain fulfillment from multiple different things, which includes things that you're hopefully passionate or happy about.
Thank you for that. I'm
Anything
serious.
else?
I'm not being sarcastic.
I'm so done with
I
you guys.
appreciate you.
Yo, I'm done. I'm kidding. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
There's one more question. I just want to go around and just hear what your thoughts are on that. That I just because I know, Tashanta, you brought up faith. Some people don't know what that is. Being honest. There's something that may be challenged by, whatever the case. What happened over there?
I said what it was.
No.
Oh.
Tell him mind his business. Tell him mind. We got something. We cool. Mind your business. Go ahead.
Not saying what you said it was.
Oh, okay.
But in terms of just people who don't believe, some people may not believe in that. All right, believe that that faith will get them through. And so the question is the impossible possible?
Yes. Nothing's too hard for God. Hallelujah.
I am gonna go back.
Absolutely.
That's a back and forth.
Tashante said
But
hallelujah.
everyone's
That's right.
impossible is different. I almost feel like the impossible is possible once you try to do it, and putting a pen to paper, planning, then actually taking on action. So I would say that doing the impossible is possible. It's just a matter of like just really just planning, getting it together and doing it. There's so many things that I want to do, and I just need to do it. So it's possible.
I look at this like it's a little bit like it goes back to like sometimes I feel like the answer is yes. You can do anything you set your mind to. You work hard, work smart, and you put yourself in a position like you know with a little bit of luck, and you'll be able to get it. And then other times, no, right? And when I hear that question, I'm not just thinking like professional, your goal.
Can you give an example as to something that you don't like?
So my sister, I'm gonna get personal. My sister passed away recently, right? It's all right, and she had cancer, right? So my impossible was like she gonna beat it, right? She didn't, right? I'm definitely, so I grew up in the church. I'm not that religious anymore as I used to be. I'll definitely say since her passing, right? And one of my friends, again, we grew up in the church, so he's gotten, like, I guess, saved again or born again, right? So he's really committed now. And I'll be honest, he really helped me, like, through that when I went back home and you're talking with him, and the spiritual guidance was very helpful in that type of situation, right? So when I view that question in that scenario, my answer is like, nah, right? I was kind of like, the only thing, at a certain point, the only thing you do have is faith. Because everyone's saying no. Doctor's like, nah, that plan to not be here with her, right? That you get that call, you get, right? So all these got it from my mom and dad, and even her when she was still here. So I view that question in different ways, like different things come in my head, and I'll view like, well, you know, like why did it happen to her? And then if it did happen to her, all right, cool, we gonna beat it. All right, well, we didn't beat it. No, the answer is no for me on that scenario, right? If I maybe some in my professional career where I felt that was someone where I am now, did I think I was gonna be here? Like no. So, and I remember I used to be like, oh, I want to be this and that, and certain things did happen. Like, you know, like they say, you got to speak things into existence. It did happen, and I look back and I was like, oh shit, ain't that about it? Like it actually worked, right? Like that makes you have your drive and your will and all that, and just increases when something like that happens, right? But I just look at it different ways, because certain scenarios, I would say, yeah, like you plan and you work ahead and you glass half full and you have faith and all those different things, and it's going to find a way. And then on other flip sides or other things, no, I'm like, you know, maybe not. Like you just have to live with that, and that helps you grow, right, and become better. And hopefully, again, going back to the battles, maybe you lost that battle. Right, the impossible was not possible there, but maybe another impossibility is going to be possible, right? I don't know how, right? You understand what I'm saying? Like I'll just keep it like 100, as they say. There's certain things I'm like, nah, no. Someone asks me, be like, no, I really don't, and they'll say, oh, why are you so jaded? Why are you so pessimistic? I will say, well, I'm being pragmatic. I'm being realistic, and I don't think this is going to be possible, right? Because of all the things that for certain things to happen, what would have to then, you know, like if you have a scale, if you know, a seesaw, right? If someone's at the bottom, and right, it's just, okay, for us to get to the bottom, what has to happen? The other side has to go down, right? So that's why and I'll be like, no, it's not, because the other side have to go down. So I just view it depends on what your impossible thing is, to your point, Melanie. And then it also is like, and once you know what that is, then I think you're better able to assess and say, you know what, yeah, I think this is possible, right? Because I could give you different scenarios, other personal experiences where I also feel no, right? And vice versa. I can give you some things where I feel, yep, it happened, and it ain't happened yet, but I think it's gonna happen, right? So that's all I answer that question.
Can I add to that? Well, just my condolences about your
Yeah, thank you.
For me, like the impossible being possible, my web series, for example, I didn't have the money to start this thing, but what I did was I had faith, and I started taking steps towards completing it. Whether that meant just writing the script, going out to screenings, meeting different cast members, and then when the time was right, the money came. So sometimes it's about just stepping out on faith and just taking the steps towards where you want to go, even though you don't know where you're going to end up, or, you know.
But faith and also your knowledge.
And knowledge, yes, of course.
You know, you there's things that you have learned in terms of how to work the system.
Absolutely.
To actually be able to get something from it.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and you know, you combine powers, you combine strengths. If these are the values, these are the things for you, like you combine, that helps you get to where you at right now.
Absolutely.
You know, but I definitely appreciate you all. If you could sum up in just like maybe a sentence, how do you feel you personally battle against complacency?
To be honest, I battle against complacency when I get negative feedback, or I hear that there's something that I need to improve on. That's my one-liner. But and again, just never become comfortable. I've been there very recent, and I had to just get my act together. So.
In a sentence, I would say, maybe two. No, I'm kidding. I knew you guys look at me like that. I said it purposely for you to look at me like that. Sometimes to move forward, you have to take a step or two backwards. And I don't necessarily mean like, you know, moving down the ladder. I mean, sometimes take, you know, there's more to the sentence, I apologize. But I think sometimes like analysis like requires a sense of calmness, right? You kind of like gotta like like take a step back. I think you mentioned like before, like recharging the batteries. So I think at least how I battle against complacency, like I've taken a step back, removed myself, gotten out of my own way, like, and as a result of that, I've been able to like step back into it with a whole new mindset of how to tackle the problem, how to, by creating a solution, right? And obviously, reach where I want to go. So I would say, sometimes to go forward doesn't necessarily, if you stumble or you take 2 steps backwards, doesn't mean you're not, going to go or continue in the right direction. Sometimes you need that.
Okay.
Me, what I do personally, I start my day off with prayer. I try to. I don't always do it 100% of the time, but start my day off with prayer and try to think about or write down what is it that I can do today to move me closer to where I want to be with what I have. So if I'm lacking money, what can I do that doesn't involve money to get me closer to where I need to be? That's how I battle complacency.
And I would just say for me, I always had the mentality since I was young that I want to fight for my life. Granted, like I grew up around older siblings that I felt were all fighters. It just was what it was, the neighborhood we grew up in. But I see how they were able to grow out of that behavior pattern. So it's not like now as adults, like every day, like, yo, I'm about to rock somebody, or we gonna get into this tussle or anything like that. That's not how their mentality is. They channeled that energy on another level where they was like, you know what, I'm not just gonna be complacent with being in this way. Being in these environments where, yeah, that was like one of the things we had to do to survive, but we've gone beyond that. So it's about living. So it's about, taking advantage of life as we see best fit, but it's like, it's about living. So I feel like, fighting for my life is one of the things that I always feel like that I'll bring it up or I'll think about it, when I take time to like reflect. And I feel like that's been helpful for me. I always feel there's definitely a lot of power in reflection. So it's like something I continuously try to do. And, from there it's like, okay, with doing that, and it's like the by yourself meeting. At the end of the day, you debrief yourself like, what could have went well, what didn't go well, what I did that I killed. And like, I see that I had a high impact on others. Those are things that like help me. It was like, you know what, I can't just be settling for less or just settling for something that I know I'm not content with.
All right. That was a nice.
So I want to read the quote that I emailed around to you guys because I felt like it was a good quote. But before I read the quote, if there's like anything else you may want to plug, ladies, or Simba, anything you might want to plug, you can plug it now, do a little promotion, speak a little bit more about your web series. You can do that now.
Oh yes, thank you. Definitely shout out. Shout out. Don't forget my company. We're doing our first web series. It's called Media Alert. You can follow us on Instagram for any updates at Media Alert Series. I want to give a shout out to the main cast, Kamel Goffin, Imani Nia Robinson, Fritz John, my other 2 producers, Cherie Snyder and Edison Sainsbury. I want to give a shout out to them and thank you.
I feel like you accepting the award. Thank God, my producers, Mark and Anthony, you guys who supported me so much. I swear, like I'm.
All you need to say was Wakanda forever.
Yeah.
Do you want to plug anything, Melanie?
No plugs.
Okay, Simba.
I'm good on mine, my man.
All right, so the quote was, in the long run, we shape our lives and we shape ourselves. The process never ends until we die. And the choices we make are ultimately our own responsibility. By Eleanor Roosevelt. So thank you all once again. Curious Success has done it. And we are definitely looking to continue to keep, building on this platform. The main or primary platforms that we utilize to post our content is on Facebook and YouTube, so definitely be on the lookout for that. We will definitely let you ladies know when this is posted. Eventually we are going to be on. No, I'm not going to do it December. But anyway.
he was going to finish and he was going to say, eventually we're going to be on iTunes. we're on Audio Mac right now, but eventually we're going to be on iTunes. There's I won't say a lengthy, but there's a process you have to go through to put anything up there, right? So look forward to having the podcast on iTunes, and look forward to having a revamped website where you guys can go and get all the actual content. So this is not our first podcast. So definitely want the listeners and the fans to go on the website and take a look and listen, rather, at all the content that we've had thus far, right? It's been a journey, ups and downs, but I'm sure you guys would love to hear what we've recorded and, the journey that we're on.